Prologue. The call changed everything. The call ordering me to stand down. I stood, walking in circles, the rage stiffening my neck, eyes drawn to my gun safe. I paced toward it, then shuffled back. They had kidnapped my wife, intent on destroying me, but I didn't know who or why. I had held a gun so many times in the last decade, but not since protecting the U.S. Secretary of State several years ago. It was the first and only time I killed anyone. I'd never completely recovered. I hated guns, hated killing, until now. Sometimes killing was necessary. Grandpa had taught me that. And I would again if that's what it took to get Rebecca back. Approaching the safe, I removed the Glock 17 and 26. The only thing that mattered was rescuing Rebecca. Our sons needed their mother. I needed my wife, and would do anything to find her, or die trying. Chapter 1. Day 1, 10:15 a.m., Sydney, New South Wales, Australia. I discovered our home security offline overnight, but it had been restored quickly. Had there been a serious issue, my caretaker, Holden, would have called. Rebecca and I were leaving Sydney for an uncomfortable lunch meeting 2 hours away. Ready, Becca?
No, but let's get it over.
We were to meet Justin Coulter, a tech billionaire, for lunch. Justin was our ex-business partner and Becca's ex-fiancé. Justin had also been my best friend in high school and university, but everything changed long ago. I had expected problems when one business partner slept with another's fiancé, but I had not anticipated treachery. Treachery that cost Becca and me billions. Despite that, I thought Justin was the ideal advisor to help me sell Grandpa's whiskey, but seeking his help turned my stomach to knots. Could I trust he would support me, as he said he would when we'd chatted a month ago? I was hopeful I could trust him. Becca was not. Trusting falsely had hurt me before, and I wasn't going to let it happen again. It was early January, and only a few weeks until vintage. The area teemed with activity. Vines being checked, grapes tested, harvesting equipment under repair, and pickers, consisting mostly of university students, looking for a good time and extra cash, were arriving to help with harvest. My 6-foot, 2-inch, 195-pound frame was constrained by the BMW Z4. At 5 foot, 4 inches, and only 115 pounds, Becca fit the Z4 perfectly as we sped past the vineyards. It was my favorite time in the Hunter, holding the annual promise of laying claim to being the finest vintage ever. The smell turned my thoughts to the whiskey I was now considering selling. I'd inherited it from Grandpa Charles, who'd crafted it 60 years ago from Scottish barley that great-grandpa Chad Willis had brought from Scotland after World War I and planted during Prohibition on the family farm. Grandpa called it moonshine, which it technically was, but the whiskey had become something special and possibly worth a lot of money. Money that could help my family for generations. Justin was a double master in wine and spirits and estimated we could sell the whiskey for $5 to $10 million if it was as good as he remembered it when tasting it long ago. I passed our old weekender and tried to engage Becca in conversation. Remember how much fun we used to have here?
Yeah, Blake, leave it be, okay?
Becca was radiating tension. While agreeing to attend lunch with Justin, it was clear she wasn't looking forward to it. Justin had purchased a Catholic monastery and a few surrounding parcels of land, totaling 600 acres, just south of Broke. He had added a guardhouse, airstrip, and helipad, and named it Spirit Hill. I'd seen photos and architectural digests and video tours from documentaries of the rich and famous. Now I would view it in person for the first time. Becca appeared anxious, her hands clutching each other, her fingers raw. She was reluctant to meet the man she'd left for me, a man who'd treated her badly without realizing it or caring. Our silence endured. I inhaled deeply, taking in the scents from the vines and fields. Driving through the Hunter made my nose dance. It seemed wherever one was, the smells of agriculture were similar, always fresh and grassy. Newly cut hay barrels, grains, fruits, and other produce mixed to create a rural smell, in stark contrast to the tepid city air. The air evoked fond memories of my time spent on the family farm in Albany, Minnesota, and Grandpa's and my secret moonshine business, smells deeply imprinted in my memory. Grandpa taught me to harvest food and Grandma how to cook it, bringing the farm to the table. Grandpa also taught me to select the best grains, how to ferment them, and how to make beer and moonshine, skills I'd developed as a 10-year-old when helping him with our secret spirit business. Who would have ever thought that our $1 million moonshine would become something valuable? My nose and palate were more developed than most people through my time spent with Grandpa on the farm. I could discern individual fruits and grains and experience the unique odors and smell sensations and predict how bitter the olive, once brined, the unpicked grape, once crushed and bottled, or how the grain, fermented and aged, would taste and delight. Still, my skills fell far short of Justin's. His knowledge of whiskey, spirits, and wine was unmatched, as was his brand and reputation, and that was why I needed his help. Becca's continued silence suited me. I needed to focus and get my head around our meeting with Justin, and decide if I could trust him again or not. Then Becca broke the silence.
Blake, I don't think I can do this.
False Trust by Steve Shipley, narrated by Thomas Locklear.
Follow to find out more.